Welcome to In My Opinion 4 Anima, Gate of Memories. Things are not going so well in the world of Anima, as it's on the brink of chaos, and if that's not enough problems, an agent from a secret organization called the Order of Nathaniel has gone rogue and stolen a very important book. So they sent her student after her, who is known as the Bearer of Calamities and holds her own special book that houses her demon partner, Ergo. Things don't go as planned, and the two find themselves in a mysterious tower, and even run into Eleni, the founder of Nathaniel, and sealer of Ergo. She lets you know evil unknown entities have started to gather in this tower for reasons she's not aware of. So it's up to the Bearer and Ergo to stop these entities and figure out what exactly is going on. The story ain't half bad, and the world of Anima is really interesting. You also start to get documents up expand on it even more. Ergo and the Bearer are not a bad pair. I can see some getting annoyed by Ergo's more juvenile humor, but I found it fine to add some levity towards the serious manner, and gives him more of a character. He can easily go from jokey to serious pretty fast. The Bearer is kind of a stiff log, but her character comes around as you progress, and you can see the bond between her and Ergo grow a bit. You even start to get dreams that expand on her more. The other dialogue exchanges are okay as well, such as with the high and mighty Romeo, or the gentle Eleni. You may even get a laugh or two from some, and of course some good info. Just a little fun fact, this game is based on some tabletop RPG, but don't worry, as you don't need to know jack about it to understand what's going on, as the game does a fine job already explaining itself. Lastly, there are multiple endings for the game, so my friendly advice is to make multiple saves just in case, as some endings are locked out after a certain point. The endings themselves are pretty good, and there's no super cliffhanger, so you can walk away feeling satisfied. What we got here is an action RPG with sort of a combo customizer. Basically you have three states. One is neutral, which is not making a move yet, combo, which is when you're in the middle of an attack, and lastly air. The game allows you to pretty much put any of these skills you gain in these states, with of course air attacks being exclusive to the air section. This way your character can play how you want them to. So if you want a launcher attack to be used in mid combo, you can, or you can have it in neutral so you can start off with it. You can even reuse the same attacks in the sections as well. During combat, you can also switch between characters on the fly, even ending a combo with the switch. Since each character has their own life bar, it gives you more of a chance when the harder battles come. While in the middle of combat, you also have to balance your key and mana bars, which you can see on the upper left corner colored blue and red. The blue bar is for magic and the red is for your special physical attacks. They do constantly refill, but some attacks take a good chunk out, so it's best not to blow your load and leave yourself dodging around till it refills. Speaking of dodging, that will be your bestest friend in the game. There's no parry system or anything like that here, so the keyword is dodging, especially with the bosses. Thankfully it works well, and even have a lock on to make things easier. Everything is about timing your dodges just right so you won't get smacked around by everyone. I admit the combat itself wasn't amazing, but I wasn't bored, so I guess you can call it serviceable. It was just missing something I can't put my finger on. Maybe it was a lack of it had, as smacking these things around just didn't feel impactful. Though I do have to say the whole combo customizer thing they had going on here was a pretty interesting idea. I think I found myself sucked into the combat more when the boss fights came, as it tested your dodging skills and you needed to wait for that single opening. Now during your adventure through this tower, you will confront a lot of enemies, and smashing them down will net you some health, money, and of course experience points. Don't worry, as even though you're playing as two people, the experience points are shared, so no stress on who you are at the moment of getting XP. Once you level up, you get this big old skill tree that gives you a description of what each skill does. While some are new moves, others can be passive skills like making your consumables more effective. As you choose your path, there are many stat upgrades you can see in between the lines. So depending on what you connect, you can boost up your magical and physical attack, your mana and ki pool, and so on. Some skills even have more than one level, making them better. After you defeat your first boss, the game will open up a shop for you, which is where all the money will be going. It's the usual here, just health potions and temporary power-ups. The game lets you use the items during mid-battle, but it's kind of clunky as you gotta hold the D-pad a certain direction before it activates. And since some fights can get crazy, it can lead to your death. So instead, I suggest you just go to the menu and use the items. We do have some platforming here as well, and it works. To be honest, I thought the worst when I first saw it, and that it was going to be a clunky mess. But they don't make it nigh impossible to stick a landing, as there is a lot of room to land on. This also helps breaks up the gameplay, giving you a breather from the combat. What else breaks it up is some of the puzzles. They're not too difficult, and it's not like you have to go out your way to find a solution. Some involves reading for passwords, solving riddles, or just knowing what switch to slap. I actually enjoyed these. The game does give you a bit of freedom when it comes to exploring. I say a bit as it's just which wing you want to take down first. I just went by the numbered order, but you can mix it up if you want. While looking around, you can find these purple flames, which can be equipment to make your stats much better, or just regular potion items. If you're at max with the potion item, the game just gives you some money instead. If you felt like maybe you missed an item from any of these areas, don't worry, as you can go back there whenever you want, and the game lets you know the no return spot. What's also great is when you enter a new area, the game gives you the map, so you can search every nook and cranny. The game does autosave a bunch, but if you want to make a separate save, the game allows you to do so in the hub area. They also add a nice touch of character interaction when saving, as you can ask Ergo some questions after you save.
To discover too much about your origins.
Yes? And what did they say?
There were all kinds of theories.
There's not really any side quests in the game. The most you got here is some shadows you can free from prison by finding keys in all the levels. Interacting with certain shadows can activate some missions like a hide and seek game, which can net you some powerful weapons. There's even one that unlocks a secret boss that will kick your ass if you're not ready. Speaking of bosses, they're actually pretty fun to fight. You get this tense feeling while going at it, and they try to mix it up with each of the bosses, like having to take down a boss as each character since it's split into 2 dimensions, or dodging tons of projectiles. This is where your dodging skills come into play. I will say I found at least one boss that was pretty cheap, but besides that, it was all rather enjoyable. There's even a semi-boss that mixes in platforming. You can also find out more about the boss you're going to face through the memories you find around their level. These tell the tale of their past and how they turned out the way they did, leading to some interesting reads. You do need to find at least 3 to proceed to face them, but you will find yourself wanting to find all 5 of them to see how the story ends. You can go to the memory menu whenever you want to reread any of these.
How much time had passed? Actually, that didn't matter anymore.
As you can clearly see, the game is not pushing uber graphics power, but I still have to say, it looks nice. It's not like they just made some bland hallways and threw in some rocks and called it a day. Though I did think that's where it was heading, since the beginning of the game wasn't making the best impression. It's once you get inside the tower and see the varied areas and designs that your eyes feel more satisfied. I also kind of dig what they did with the camera at some points, such as turning a 3D area to more of a 2D one. The character designs are also pretty good as well. Everyone has a unique look to them and it doesn't feel half-assed. You might have noticed something odd with the cutscenes, and that there's no real motion and no mouth movement as well. The characters, however, do move, but more in a pose-by-pose situation when talking back and forth. This doesn't really bother me, in fact I kinda liked it. Even though it feels like a budget situation, they still kept it visually interesting as particle effects still happened, hair moved, facial expressions changed, and so on. It kinda reminded me of the current Neptunia games, and those never really bugged me as well. Now for the big downside. The voice acting. Yeah, it's not the best here. I mean, I've heard worse, but most of the characters just came off rather dull and dry, or just flat out strange. It even made me laugh at some points. The only ones that stand out as good voice acting is Ergo, a tiny bit of Elianai, and like 1 or 2 of the bosses. This is kind of a bummer since you will hear the bearer a lot during your playtime. Does it destroy the game? No, but man is it noticeable. Technical wise, I didn't run into any glitches, bugs, or frame rate issues. It was a rather smooth experience.
I've heard about you. I know who you are.
Thou flatterest me. But please, calleth me Jonathan. I hath also heard about ye, the legendary Ergo Mundus, and its beauteous nameless owner.
While the game has some drawbacks like the voice acting for most characters and the combat just missing that special something, I still enjoyed my time with it. The world of Anima is interesting and the characters that inhabit it ain't bad either. The boss fights are fun, and even though it's not pushing top-notch graphics, it still has some nice visuals. If I had to estimate my time with the game, it would be around 15 plus hours, so it does last for a bit. The replay value mainly comes from getting the 5 different endings, and if you want to run through it again, you can with New Game Plus, which lets you bring everything over from your initial playthrough. There's also some costumes you can unlock if you want to change things up. Anima was a nice surprise for me, and I think if you have some slight interest, it's definitely worth your time. I hope you enjoy my thoughts in this game, and for gamer's sake, keep gaming.